Okay, day 9 of the 100 push-up challenge. Let's go. Let's get our 100 underway. Okay. 34. So I've been thinking for the last few days that this 100 push-up challenge is messing up my normal workout routine because I've really not been doing as much or any other chest exercises, any sort of upper body cardio, so things like rowing, sort of shadow boxing, things like that. And yesterday I thought, oh, forget it, I'm just gonna do a proper back workout session, and I did, and actually not, I thought that would compromise how I do the press-ups today. I was confident enough that I'd get through the 100, but thought it would be in smaller batches, but actually that was fine. So that's a really good thing to know. Maybe I'll try and normalise things a bit more. Anyway, the thing that I was going to talk about today is this has really become a morning habit, and it's crazy to think it's been 9 days, which I guess is not that long in the grand scheme of things, but what's been interesting is it doesn't feel like it's been that long. I think part of the reason is because I've combined something which would probably get quite boring quite quickly, which is just 100 press-ups, with this recording component, and that's in some ways helped take my mind off the press-up side of things by introducing this other aspect to it. So definitely something to think about how else I can apply that in the long run. So if there's something where consistency is important and you doubt it, tying it to something else which is perhaps more interesting or provides that little bit of novelty seems to work well for me. So that's, I guess, one useful insight. The other thing that I've done since the start of April is, this is in the morning. I try and do these press-ups in the morning, usually like an hour after I wake up. But I've also started to change my night routine before I go to sleep, and I've started to try and read, an old-fashioned book. Whereas I say old-fashioned book because for the last few years, all my reading has been actually through audiobooks. So it's been listening rather than reading. And I actually enjoy it, but again, let's see if that sticks. And so maybe there's something I can tie that to. Although it's a bit different that, because the book in itself is novel, no pun intended. and so it's not the same thing every day. So maybe that challenge doesn't need any additional component to make it stick. I found I felt a lot more healthy taking my mind off work and the day's sort of events by reading for sort of even just 15-20 minutes before I go to sleep. And so that's something else that I hope sticks and continues. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about reading and my reading habits in a sec. Great, so that was 26, so that takes us up to 60. 34 plus 26, 60. Great, good progress. So, with regards to reading, I guess I've gone through phases. When I was a kid, probably up until even say 16, 17, I read almost exclusively fiction. And then I don't really remember what sort of reading I did at university. Of course, a lot of textbooks and things. But on the other side, I know that when I graduated and sort of 24 onwards, I have been reading a lot of non-fiction, and that's a range from biographies, autobiographies, sort of self-help stuff, health stuff, coaching, business stuff, all quite diverse, and it's been fun and interesting, but I wanted to try and reintroduce fiction in the last few years, but struggle to, and part of the reason is reading some non-fiction doesn't really bring that sort of same joy. And again, happy for people to challenge that and say differently. But for me, I felt reading that non-fiction, there was a lot of learning, a lot of things I could take away, but it was a lot more documentation of facts. So when you're reading an autobiography, it's really listening to one person's journey through life, their opinions, events of things as they go through. Some of them are fantastic and really valuable to get those insights from a super interesting person's career, but it didn't allow me to sort of access that creative component that I used to get from fiction, and also that ability to just switch off and go to another world. As cheesy as that sounds, it just allows you to sort of change mindset for a little while. And so I haven't actually still been successful in going to that fiction world, and I think part of the reason is I don't really buy into it with the same sort of joy that I used to when I was a child, and it doesn't give me that same level of sort of novelty. I still remember, in my teens, some nights staying up all night reading some books that I was really into. I could sit there and read them for 10, 12 hours straight. I definitely can't do that today. Fiction, especially non-fiction. And so I think I found like a compromise between those two, which covers the sort of books I've been reading in the last couple of years. Okay, 23 more. I guess 17 to go. So, one type of book that I think I've been consistently reading over the last 2 years has been a really books that discuss the sort of financial world, and so if I give you some examples from the movie world, that's stuff like movies like The Big Short, Margin Call, even going back all the way to Wall Street and Boiler Room, those sort of finance world, sort of immersive financial world, I wouldn't say biographies, but sort of journeys through big events have been really interesting to me. And so in the book world, I've read pretty much, I'm working my way through most of what Michael Lewis has done. Most recently, his book Going Infinite, which is describing the journey of Sam Bankman-Fried, the FTX founder that's now been arrested. Amazing to sort of see it and read that from that perspective. And the book that I'm currently reading is this one, I think it's called something like Straight to Hell by Jean Lefebvre. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's this, again, very self-assured, probably arrogant banker who has worked his way through his whole career through the sort of crazy periods of finance where investment banking's really sort of blown up and had that crazy bull run, and reading that perspective from inside the chaos I find super interesting. I guess it's a world I'm just have zero exposure to. I've got no real friends in banking. I know nothing about that world. It was something which I was really close to doing. Until the night before I had to apply for university, I was split between applying for medicine and economics with a view to going potentially down a career handling financial products. So I guess maybe it's that I find the reason why I find this so interesting, but I do think it's just a world which I know nothing about. So in some ways it's, for me, fiction, right? It's something which it's not real to me. And so that's awesome. But I think it's not so completely detached from reality that I find that it's too detached, if that makes sense. So I think it's like this nice balance of true biography, real, but also so different to my life that it gives me that sort of ability to switch off and go to another world. Sort of how people like TV shows like Grey's Anatomy and these sort of medical dramas, which I would never watch, but in that way it allows me to go to a different sort of world and access that aspect. So that's what I've been reading every night since April. Great, another 100 done. See you all tomorrow.